everyone, John here, and welcome to Smash Talk on Game Exposure, exposing you to anything and everything gaming. Today's topic is going to be top 10 DLC characters for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This is a list that I have comprised of all speculation for the most part. I'm not 100% sure if this is going to be the characters. I'm giving you 10 characters that can make it in, and as we know, 10 can't make it in. Only 5 others, as far as we know, are going to make it in, due to the fighter packs that Sakurai announced during the last Direct, with a character, a stage, and multiple music tracks with each one. Speaking of, we know that Piranha Plant is not part of the 5-pack DLC, so don't worry about that at all. If I miss anything, of course, just let me know in the comment section below. There's a few things we have to consider when we're looking at this. We know now that the DLC lineup is over. It is officially done. Sakurai tweeted recently that this DLC lineup is now complete. This time, the selection was made entirely by Nintendo. I decide if we can create a fighter based on their selection, then come up with the plan. So there's a lot of information that we can take from this little blurb. One thing for sure is that it's done. Everything has been finalized. There's not going to be any other characters that he's going to be thinking of or is thinking of right now, unlike in Smash 4 when he had the fighter ballot and they were thinking about things after the game's initial release. This is before the game's base game's even released. Another thing is this might not be good for some characters in the fact that Nintendo picked characters that could potentially get in, and then Sakurai has to choose from that pool. That might deteriorate some chances for some characters, but I don't think it's going to play too much of a factor into the whole thing. I think he's just letting everybody know the process is done, so please stop nagging me. Other things we had to consider was Sakurai's third-party character rules. He's got a few rules that he goes about typically throughout the Smash series. Obviously, these rules have kind of shifted over the years, but these, a few that I'm going to mention, are kind of like pretty solid for the most part. So we have manga characters will not join the battle. Sorry, Goku. You're not getting into Smash. I'm sorry for those Goku fans out there. It's not likely. While it's true that we've added characters from other companies, it's not going to be anyone and everyone. So not every character that you can think of is going to get in. The character must carry game history with them, so we're going to look at characters that have had a lot of history, especially with Nintendo. But we also know that's not necessarily exclusive to Nintendo properties, as we've seen Cloud, whose main game was on the PlayStation. He made it into Smash, so that doesn't necessarily just mean Nintendo properties. We know that Sakurai is using the Smash Fighter ballot from Smash 4 to heavily influence his choices. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that every character is going to come from that ballot, but a good chunk of them will and have already. So we're going to be taking that kind of stuff into consideration. We also know that with Smash 4, the DLC stages came as either returning stages from past games or stages based on worlds of the DLC newcomers. So what that means is with the fighter packs, the stages don't have to necessarily be directly related to the fighter. It's possible that Sakurai could put in a different type of stage that has nothing to do with the character that's in the fighter pack. Now, we've seen him kind of do this with Smash 4, but honestly, within the fighter packs, it's most likely going to be a stage related to the fighter. But we're not really 100% sure. But we gotta consider that. We know that third-party characters have a higher chance of making it in as DLC. If you go to Smash 4 and don't include returning characters, the other fighters were third-party, like Ryu and Cloud. And Square Enix has even stated that in Smash they would prefer their characters to be DLC as compared to being in the base roster. Now we know that Cloud made it in to the base roster this time around, but if you remember from Smash 4, he was a DLC character, as I stated earlier. There's a couple of business moves with this. They kind of want to see how well the game sells, and if it does, then they could decide to put the character in and make a lot more money after the fact, as opposed to putting it in the base roster. Now, we know that Sakurai wanted to put every character that's ever been in Smash into the game, so Cloud was able to make it in beforehand, but if Square Enix is even talking about this kind of stuff, it's promising that we're going to get at least one third-party rep from Square Enix out of the 5 fighter packs. That's already looking good for the third parties. Lastly, the leaker Vergiben, who's been very credible so far, he's been leaking a lot of things that have come true, such as the Grinch leak being false, and that Isaac was an assist trophy, and some other stuff prior to this point. It's important to note that anything from any leaker needs to be taken with a huge grain of salt, as we don't really know if they're telling the truth or not, but so far Vergiben has been accurate, and that's why we're going to take his stuff into consideration. Speaking of, he has said that this is going to be Minecraft content, and one Square Enix rep most likely going to be one of the first DLC revealed. Now, Minecraft content could mean Steve, I don't think is a fighter. I think he's going to make it in as like as a Mii Fighter outfit or something. I don't see how Sakurai could really put him in, but I mean, Sakurai could really do whatever he wants nowadays. What? What? And with that, let's get started. Number 10. Monster Hunter. This fearless icon has been fighting monsters since 2004 in Monster Hunter for PlayStation 2. It is one of Capcom's most popular franchises and has recently become popular in the West. Super popular in Japan, multiple titles have been on Nintendo consoles, and it's super relevant now, especially with Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate that just released recently, August 28th of 2018. We also know that Monster Hunter had a Mii Fighter outfit in Smash 4. We haven't seen that outfit or spirit of him in Smash Ultimate so far, but we have seen Rathalos as a boss from the Monster Hunter series, and we've also seen an arena-style stage that he was introduced with that resembles the terrain from Monster Hunter 4. If we look at the boss, Dracula, from Dracula's Castle stage, we'll notice that he's not fighting on the regular stage, but rather an arena style of that stage. So they could do the same thing with Monster Hunter. They could, in a pack, release the actual stage, since they've already have work done on the background and stuff, and release Monster Hunter within the pack with the stage and multiple soundtracks from that series. Now, here's the things that aren't really going for him. Capcom already has Mega Man and Ryu, plus they're getting Ken. That's already 3 Capcom reps. Can they get another one? I think Sakurai might prioritize in other areas, so I'm not too sure. And the thing with Monster Hunter is an avatar. It can be a male or female customizable character that you create in the game. He doesn't really have as much depth as other characters in Smash, but he's still iconic and relevant. And honestly, we've seen other avatars make it into Smash before, such as Villager and Robin. They're both customizable in their games, but Sakurai was able to take them from their games and make them into full playable characters in Smash. It's definitely possible, but Sakurai might want to take a different route and choose a character from the Monster Hunter stories instead, seeing as those characters are a little bit more fleshed out. Lastly, one of the larger issues with Monster Hunter crossing over as a playable character is the fact that the series producer at one time refused to allow an appearance of Monster Hunter in the vs. Capcom series. He had this no crossover rule for whatever reason. But we know somewhere along the line, that wasn't enough to hold back the female version of Monster Hunter, as she appeared as a playable character via downloadable content in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. So even though that was a rule for the producer at that one time, we know that's not enough to hold back our Monster Hunter making it into other franchises as a crossover character. Number 9. Heihachi Mashima. This Tekken series veteran and grandpa has been a part of the series since its original release in arcades in 1994. He's owned by Bandai Namco, who, interestingly enough, developed Smash 4 and is currently developing Smash Ultimate. And right now, Pac-Man is the only representative from Bandai Namco in Smash Ultimate's fighter roster. So Bandai Namco getting a second rep wouldn't be too far off. He's also a Mii Fighter outfit in Smash 4 and hasn't been seen anywhere else in Smash Ultimate yet. He's been used as a guest character in other crossover games such as Project X Zone and PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. What's not looking so good for him is what Sakurai stated about him in the past. Sakurai stated that Heihachi was considered as a fighter for Smash 4, but was ultimately decided against because Sakurai thought it would be hard to implement his moves into Smash. So during the time period, he thought it was too much. But we've had more time since then, so Sakurai might have been able to figure something out. So it might be holding him back, but now that time has passed, who really knows? But in all honesty, Heihachi's pretty cool, but he's not as flashy as some of the other characters, so that could really go against him. But at the end of the day, he was considered, as we know him, to be a Mii Fighter outfit. So who knows? Sakurai might have made a moveset for him and put him in as one of the fighters in the Smash DLC fighter packs. Number 8. Lloyd Irving. Lloyd Irving is the protagonist of Tales of Symphonia, one of the many games in the Tales series owned by Bandai Namco. The Tales franchise is super popular in Japan. Tales of Symphonia specifically is the second best-selling game in the franchise. He's very well known in Japan, and we definitely know Sakurai's on his side, as he's made it in as a Mii Fighter outfit in Smash 4. Sakurai's also stated in a Nintendo Dream interview, why he decided on Lloyd for a costume, that he wasn't sure if there was any other appropriate choice. The interviewer then asked, for example, How about the protagonist of the first game, Cress, from Tales of Fantasia? Sakurai replies, I really think it has to be Lloyd here. I could have gone down the route of choosing from the first entry in the series, but for old games, it was somewhat common for the editorial supervision from the original creator to make the process difficult. So we know that Sakurai doesn't like too much conflict when he's picking out third-party characters and stuff like that. The other thing that we can get from this is Lloyd Irving is the poster child for the Tales series, at least in Sakurai's eyes. One of the biggest things going against this is his relevance worldwide. His game isn't as relevant since its Western release on the GameCube back in 2004, so he's not really as well known for maybe the newer generations that are playing Smash, but honestly, we've seen characters that haven't been relevant in a while come into Smash, such as King K. Rool, so honestly, I don't think that's going to hold him back too much, but relevance is a big factor, especially for Sakurai. Number 7. Elma, from Xenoblade Chronicles X, the leader of Blade and Colonel of NLA's Skell Forces from Earth. She is a Nintendo property and not a third party, so they already have the rights to her, and that is a lot less hoops to jump through for Sakurai. Now, we said in the past that third-party characters are more likely as the DLC, but I think there's a good chance for a bunch of Nintendo characters to make it in as well. She's a popular character as Xenoblade X's main protagonist. We know that the Xenoblade Chronicles did phenomenally well, as Shulk is a playable character in Smash 4. And we also know that Elma is still loved, as she's been put in an expansion pack for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. She's relevant now, and she was relevant when she was announced back in 2014, which is a year before the Smash roster was finalized. We also know that Rex did not make it into Smash 4 as a fighter, but as a Mii fighter outfit. And honestly, if you're going to add a second rep, and it's not going to be Rex or Pyra or any of those characters from Xenoblade Chronicles 2, then the next best thing would be Elma. And she's from a game that was released in 2015, so it's really looking good for her, especially the fact that she's a female. We don't have that much female representation in Smash, so we could use another female fighter. Things that are going against her is the fact that she's not the main character of Xenoblade Chronicles X, but rather the main protagonist. The main character is an avatar that you create. They could add that particular avatar in, as Villager and Robin are avatars that made it into Smash 4, but honestly, Elma is a lot more recognizable, so it's more likely going to be her as opposed to the avatar in Xenoblade Chronicles X. We also know that Xenoblade Chronicles X didn't sell as well as its predecessor. The game was more focused on heavy exploration and the game mechanics than the story. And that really ended up hurting the game as a whole, but Elma is still loved by many Xenoblade Chronicles fans, and if Rex didn't make it in, and Shulk's there, and Sakurai wants to put in a second rep for the Xenoblade Chronicles series, Elma has a very big chance in filling in that slot. Number 6. Sora. This iconic character has been a part of our hearts since his debut in Kingdom Hearts for PlayStation 2 back in 2002. He's been in multiple Nintendo consoles, such as Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories for the Game Boy Advance and Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance for 3DS. He's highly requested, he has a gaming history, and he's super relevant, as we know that Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming out soon. It is scheduled to be released on January 25th, 2019 in Japan, and on January 29th, 2019 elsewhere. The game has been in development since 2013, which is 2 years prior to the Smash roster being finalized. With all those things, Sora has a great chance in making it into Smash. But there are two big factors that cause a problem. First being the fact that Sora is a Disney property. Now here's the thing, although Sora does belong to Disney, he is controlled by Square Enix, so they share him. So they get to choose which games to put him in, but also they need permission from Disney before they do that. Justin Scarpone, VP and General Manager of Disney Japan, said that they would be fine with Sora being in Smash Bros. But it's up to Square Enix to make that decision if they want him in Smash, but also the main decision of director Tetsuya Nomura. It's his choice if he wants him in Smash, and he probably wants his baby to be represented correctly in the game just like Cloud was. Kingdom Hearts 3 is not coming to Switch at the moment. Nomura says a Nintendo Switch version of Kingdom Hearts 3 or Xbox One versions of the Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 and 2.5 Remix or Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue collections, that's a mouthful, could be possible in the future, but only after existing versions of Kingdom Hearts 3 are complete. According to IGN, Nomura said that he isn't ruling out Kingdom Hearts 3 coming to the Nintendo Switch eventually, but wants to fulfill the promise of the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions before the team focuses on additional platforms. So here's the thing, if they were to decide after the game's release that they wanted to port it over to the Switch, that could give way to Sora being released in Smash. They could do it similar to how they revealed Isabelle as a fighter for Smash, and the Animal Crossing announcement for the Switch, which happened directly after her reveal during the September Direct. So they could do that. Is it likely? It's not really known, and that's probably why he's not going to make it into our top 5. But who did make it into the top 5? Well, let's keep going. Coming in at number 5, Crash Bandicoot. This crazy iconic character has been going insane with his Crash Insane trilogy coming out in 2017 for the PlayStation 4, a game that recently ported over to the Switch. He has appeared in just as many Nintendo games as opposed to other consoles, and he's super popular in Japan. He's highly requested, and his character would just fit into Smash really well. With him being super cartoon-like, funny, and just crazy, he would be a great addition to the Smash roster. The cons with him is the fact that he's an Activision property, which is a Western company. And one thing that we know is Sakurai kinda doesn't like to deal too much with language barriers. He'd rather work with Japanese companies so he doesn't have to go through those extra hoops of getting translators and things like that. So that's one thing going against him. Another thing, he's originally owned by Sony, so he's pretty much the Sony mascot to many. But we got Cloud and Snake to come in, so Activision lending him over to Sakurai doesn't seem too far off. Lastly, back in 2015, Crash wasn't as relevant, as we know that the Insane Trilogy was announced at E3 in 2016, the year after the Smash roster was finalized. That's a big factor, but again, Crash Bandicoot has been highly requested over the years. Sakurai has been listening to a lot of the fans' requests, so it is possible that he could make it into Smash Ultimate. Number 4, Rayman. Rayman is a character of legend, as we know with Rayman Legends being on the Wii U and also an exclusive definitive edition for the Nintendo Switch. We know that Ubisoft has been getting pretty chummy with Nintendo lately, as we've seen Nintendo recently work with them on games like Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle for the Nintendo Switch, which is a big deal. Nintendo literally lent over some of their highest IPs to them, and it ended up really paying off. We've also seen Fox McCloud being lent over to Starlink Battle for Atlas, which was also developed by Ubisoft. We also know that Rayman did make it into Smash 4 as a trophy, but what's even more interesting is the fact that Ubisoft specifically gave the model over for Rayman. We've also seen Rabbid Peach from Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle make it into Smash Ultimate as a spirit. So again, they have a really good relationship, and that's really working in his favor. The relevance recently with Rayman, other than the definitive edition for Switch, he hasn't really had his own main game in a little while. Well, they could announce another Rayman game and him as a fighter at the same time. That's the beauty of these Smash Fighter packs. They could literally do whatever they want. He's also been recently added as a fighter to the game Brawlhalla, which doesn't necessarily deconfirm him in Smash, but it would be kind of weird that Ubisoft would give him over in another fighting game within such a short span of time. But you never know. Lastly, he is a Ubisoft property, and Ubisoft is based in France. And as we know, Sakurai prefers working with Japanese companies to avoid that language barrier. But if Sakurai is really willing to listen to the community and go the extra mile, then Rayman could make it into Smash Ultimate. Number 3, Geno from Super Mario RPG. This character has been around for a long time. He's an older character that has been highly requested for pretty much every Smash game ever. We know that he was a Mii Fighter outfit in Smash 4. During a Nintendo Dream interview, Sakurai was asked what led him to decide to choose Geno as a costume after all this time, which Sakurai replies, "To tell you the truth, it's because I wanted Geno to be a playable character. He has a gun for a hand, and I think he fits in really well with Smash. During Brawl, I thought it would be great if I could add him, but in the end, it didn't become a reality." The interviewer goes on to say, because of that, you added him as a Mii costume this time? Which Sakurai replies, "That's right, he's very popular. When talking about older characters, Geno always gets a lot of requests. He didn't appear as a fighter, but I was able to achieve something kind of close to that as a Mii costume." Sakurai really wants Geno in the game, but what's going against that right now really is this recent tweet with him saying that Nintendo has decided the characters. It is very possible that Nintendo decided to choose characters that would most likely benefit them in the long run as far as money goes, as opposed to picking characters that are more fan favorites that might not make them as much money because maybe they're older, like Geno. Geno is a very old character A lot of the younger generations playing Smash probably don't know who he is, but at this point, if you've been watching YouTube videos about Smash, you probably have heard about Geno in some sort of capacity. So other things that are working against him is the fact that he is a Square Enix property. It's third party, it's extra hoops that he's got to jump through. It's his relevance. He hasn't really been that relevant. I mean, he's been seen as a cameo in Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, but honestly, other than that in the Mii Fighter outfit, he hasn't really been seen anywhere else. So his relevance isn't as much. But fans have been asking him for years, so Sakurai is definitely at least taking that into consideration, as we've seen with Smash 4. The biggest thing right now is the fact that he's been seen as a token in the Battle Arena mode in the latest Direct. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean he's deconfirmed. A lot of people think, oh, he's a token, he's deconfirmed, or he's a spirit. That doesn't mean he's deconfirmed. We've seen in Smash 4 that Mewtwo and Lucas were originally trophies in the base game, but were later released as DLC characters that came with their own trophies that were slightly different. They still had the same name like Lucas or Mewtwo, but they had different descriptions in them and they had updated models that resembled them as playable fighters in Smash 4. Now, even though trophies aren't in Smash Ultimate, it could potentially be a similar concept for Geno. Sakurai could add him into the game even with the token present. It's totally possible. But again, it's been highly debated on the whole spirits thing, if spirits are deconfirmed. There's a lot of things going in both directions for that argument, such as a King K. Rool spirit and male Wii Fit trainer, but they're kind of alternate forms of the fighters, so it's really hard to say if that means that they're deconfirmed or not. We don't really know. We won't really know unless Sakurai says something about it. Still, even with that, Geno still has a pretty good chance of making it into Smash Ultimate. Number 2. Bandana Waddle Dee. This little spear wielder has been around for a very long time, with his debut being in Kirby Superstar Megaton Punch as an opponent for Kirby, and has been a part of the franchise ever since. He is super relevant. He's being consistently added in games as either a playable character or an NPC. He is from the Kirby series, which is the 8th best-selling franchise for Nintendo, a series that Sakurai had a huge role in, as he's literally the father of Kirby. And since Sakurai likes to put in his own stuff into Smash games, as we've seen with Kid Icarus Uprising, we could see other Kirby characters or representations coming into Smash Ultimate. Again, very iconic. He's been in multiple games, such as Kirby's Return to Dreamland as a playable character. He's the only playable character from that game that is not currently in Smash. He's also in Kirby Star Allies as one of Kirby's initial Dream Friends, and since then has appeared in just as many games as King Dedede and even more games than Meta Knight. He's a big missing Kirby rep that has been highly requested and is super popular all over the world. Now, there's no known spirit of him, not including the normal Waddle Dees that are walking around. They're more like mobs, and there is also a lack of spear wielders in Smash Ultimate right now. You'd think that with all the Fire Emblem characters that there would at least be one spear wielder, but no, they all have swords. So Bandana Waddle Dee could fill that spot as a spear wielder. The biggest thing that's going in Bandana Waddle Dee's favor is the fact that King Dedede's final smash is a huge reference to the masked Dedede fight in Superstar Ultra. During this fight in the game, you could see Bandana Waddle Dee making a cameo in the background as the only audience member in the crowd. It's important to note that during King Dedede's final smash in Ultimate, that there is no one in the audience, which is very strange because Sakurai is known for paying attention to small details like that. So leaving out this detail is interesting nonetheless. So what's going against him? One of the big things is the fact that he is a Waddle Dee, a generic enemy from the series that is simply wearing a bandana and wielding a spear. But here's the thing. If a plant can make it into Smash Ultimate, what? Clearly, Bandana Waddle Dee has a chance, as the bar has definitely been lowered since Piranha Plant's inclusion into Smash Ultimate. The other thing is the fact that he wasn't a huge role in Kirby Superstar Allies. He was just a Dream Friend. What's important here is the fact that that game came out somewhat recently, and that was before the roster was finalized back in 2015. So that does not necessarily mean that Bandana Waddle Dee won't make it in to Smash Ultimate. Before we go on to the number 1 slot, I do want to say a few characters that made it into the honorable mentions category, and I probably will slaughter these names, so please forgive me in advance. The first few are Nintendo characters Baelith, Elderguard, Dimitri, and Claude from Fire Emblem Three Houses, as that is the most current Fire Emblem game that is going to be coming out for the Nintendo Switch. I wanted to mention them as it's been a pattern in Smash that a Fire Emblem character from a current game or a game coming out soon is typically featured some sort of way, as we've seen with the bazillion Fire Emblem characters we have already. And these 4 are our main protagonists of the game. So any 4 of them could have made it in, but honestly they didn't fit the top 10. We also have several Square Enix characters that I thought could make it in, but I don't think they necessarily fit the top 10. And that would be Erdrick from Dragon Quest III, Bianca Whitaker from Dragon Quest V, Neku from The World Ends With You, and Agnes from Bravely Default. Again, if I slaughter the names, I'm sorry. But we're gonna move on to the number 1 slot. Number 1. Banjo-Kazooie. This iconic duo has been getting jiggy with it since their debut on the N64. Their franchise really revolutionized platforming RPGs for that era. They've had 5 games on Nintendo consoles, they are very popular worldwide, and they have been highly requested over the years. One thing that we do know about them is that their trademark has recently been renewed as of September 9th, 2018. And since the port of Yooka-Laylee making it over to the Nintendo Switch, we've seen that Nintendo and Rare have been rekindling their relationship. We also know that Phil Spencer saying twice on Twitter that he is willing to collaborate with Nintendo to have Banjo in Smash. The things going against Banjo is the fact that sometime after Banjo-Tooie, Rare decided to kind of cut their ties with Nintendo. And we know that Banjo-Kazooie is a Microsoft property, and though they have cameos in other games, they aren't as relevant as they used to be. Again, we know in Smash that you don't have to necessarily be relevant now to make it in, as we've seen with King K. Rool, who is literally a Nintendo and Rare representative that made it into Smash Ultimate. With that said, Banjo-Kazooie has the greatest chance of making it in. He'd be one of the most shocking characters. He's been highly requested over the years, especially in Japan, so him making it into Smash is pretty much a shoo-in at this point. And there it is, the top 10 DLC characters that could potentially make it into Smash Ultimate. Again, this is all speculation. I don't know if the top 5 out of these 10 are going to make it in. I just believe that these characters have the greatest chance of making it in Smash Ultimate. So what do you guys think? Do you agree that the top 10 DLC characters that I have chosen here will make it into Smash? Do you think that there's another character that's either on the list or not that would have a greater chance into making it into Smash Ultimate? Let me know in the comment section below, especially if I missed anything. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Make sure to hit that like button, and if you're not subscribed, hit that button too. We're gonna have more Smash Talk videos coming in the future, so stay tuned for that and other things gaming on Game Exposure, exposing you to anything and everything gaming. Thank you and have a great day.